Good morning, everybody. Quick thumbs up, you can hear us? Yes, Ronnie, awesome. Thank you, Ronnie. You're always the sound check guy, I think, every time, so I really appreciate that. As you know, Tina is in Orlando with a lot of Freedom Builders and even more eXp Realty agents at the Shareholders Summit. So it is a call group residential takeover today of the Freedom Builders Mastermind. We've got some great topics. We're going to be talking about the fortune is in the follow-up and leveling up your buyer consultation. We have Mackenzie Sottini and Jessica Dillon here to lead us through today, and then I'll finish up and kind of moderate as we go through this next hour. So first, I wanted to introduce Mackenzie to the group. Just a quick bio here. She's a Florida native, turned Raleigh enthusiast. She moved here in 2006 with her husband Mike, who's on the team also, to raise their family and never looked back. Carrie stole their hearts, offering both a cozy suburban life and easy access to the vibrant downtown Raleigh scene. Mackenzie is a former educator and brings top-notch communication, organization, and grit to the real estate game. With Call Group Residential, she was one of our go-to listing specialists and dream home matchmaker, selling over 50 homes in her first full year on the team. She now is our onboarding and new agent success driver, partnering with Jessica to lead our amazing team of agents to growth and success. Mackenzie, welcome.
Wow, I sound pretty awesome, don't I?
I like writing copy, if you guys couldn't tell.
Okay.
All right, take it away.
All right, so Brandon gave us a list of topics to talk about and asked us to pick one, and so I chose follow-up. I chose follow-up because I believe that it was my superpower as an agent and being able to, as Brandon shared, sell 50 homes my first year as a real estate agent. That wasn't easy, but it took a lot of the back end stuff that none of us really want to do, but it's where I believe our business really is. So I wanted to talk about kind of fortunes in the follow-up, and I was thinking about it this morning. I've done a lot of trainings on drip campaigns, action plans, what to do with past clients, what to do with active clients, what to do with when you have online leads, what to do with your sphere of influence. So before I did that, I just kind of wanted to go back and maybe do a little bit of a mindset shift on kind of what is the why and the intention behind follow-up and why there's fortune in that, okay? And so if we all, I think most of us on this call in this room, we were in at least real estate since Q4 last year, okay? So I'm talking October, November, December. And so even a little bit before that, we have June, July, and August. So June, July, and August, we saw a little bit of a slowdown. We saw a little bit of a shift. And then I don't know how the rest of you felt, but we felt here at Call Group in October, November, things literally stopped and halted, right? And it was the main factor in that was going to be the interest rates, right? And what was happening there. So then let's fast forward to Q1 of 2023, and now we're in the middle of Q2 of 2023. And I was thinking back to what did we get under contract and what did we sell here at Call Group with the agents that we have on our team. And as I was listening, remembering stories, as I was listening to different things that we were talking about, I kept the reoccurring theme that I kept going back to when I was thinking about this topic was so many of the agents on our team right now that have buyers and or sellers under contract came from at least a year ago, if not 9 months ago. So what I wanted everyone to kind of think about right now is where's your business right now today? What have you done Q2? What did you do Q1? Because now more than ever in the market that we're in, the intention of your follow-up is because of where you want your business to be right now, today, if that makes sense, right? So the agents that we have on our team right now that are selling not one, but 2, 3, 4, 5 in a month, all that has come from their follow-up. All that has come up from whatever they have decided that works for their business. So again, I can sit here in 20 minutes and I can talk about this is what you should do for past clients and this is what you should do. And I have all that stuff and I can share that in the chat if that's what people want. It's out there everywhere. We all say the same things to do the same. We all say it and we've said it half a dozen times. So I hope that you guys are okay with me really wanting you to think about what the intention is and what's the why behind your business. We always talk about wanting that low-hanging fruit. that low-hanging fruit is there, but the low-hanging fruit is not there right now in the market that we are in. And the agents that I'm finding that are the most successful in their business right now is because they've done the follow-up. So the next question is that I'm thinking to myself, why aren't people doing follow-up? Okay, so I've got a couple of ideas, unless you guys want to throw them out in the chat. Number one, we don't do follow-up because it's boring, right? Who wants to do anything boring? And then I go back to one of my favorite coaches and he says, Mackenzie, embrace the suck, right? The most of my day, the year that I sold that number of mini homes, was I was in the office more than I was out showing homes because I was doing the follow-up, right? I was doing all the back end stuff that I did not want to do, that I hated, I'm not gonna lie. Calling people that were continuing to ignore me, right? And getting hung up on or whatever was happening, right? So then number one, we don't do it because it's boring. The second reason that I hear that people don't do follow-up is because I don't know what to say, right? So I don't know what to say, I can help you with that. We have plans, we have actions, and we have action steps and things like that. But even then, when we don't know what to say, we are so then, okay, if I give you what to say, I've got a script, I have agents who have scripts, I have agents who have action plans, and they still don't do it. So then I'm like, okay, it's boring, I get it, so let's get over the boredom. Then number two, I don't know what to say. Okay, great, here's exactly what to say, here's your action plan, here's your campaign to do this. And then number three is, well, I like to call it, I have a mayor of Crazy Town, right? So then we create these stories of what is happening when we actually send an email, when we actually send a text, or when we leave a phone call and they don't respond, right? So then what's the next thing that we do? We're like, oh my gosh, I'm bothering them. That was a dumb email. I don't know anything about the market. I don't know what to say, right? And in actuality, they're not thinking of any of those things. What they're doing is they are just doing what they want to do when they want to do it, like the rest of us. To go back to, why don't we follow up? Because we don't want to do it. But what I can promise you is if you stay consistent in your follow-up, if you consistently look at your business and do something every day to move the needle forward, you will consistently sell 2, 3, or 4 homes, no matter where your source comes from, right? Full disclosure, we're on a team. We have a lot of online leads, right? And so there is a ton of follow-up in that, but there is so much follow-up in your past clients. So a positive of being on call group or on a team are online leads. A negative of that is that sometimes we don't see the benefit of following up with our past clients and our sphere of influence. And so what I want to challenge you and to think about when you think of follow-up is, so cute, sorry, the cutest little girl came in, sorry, got distracted. So when you think about your follow-up of your sphere of influence or your past clients, it's not, hi, this is Mackenzie, thank you so much for purchasing 6 months, 6 months ago. Just wanted to see how much you liked your house, and do you know if anyone else is looking to buy or sell? Yeah, that doesn't excite me either. What sort of value and service can you provide to your sphere of influence, right? I'm embarrassed to say, and Jessica has an opposite superpower that I have, I'm embarrassed to say that I did not reach out to my sphere of influence my first year of real estate, right? I can only imagine how many more homes I could have sold that first year had I reached out to my sphere of influence, because I had the same mayor of Crazy Town in my brain saying they know me as a teacher, they do not know me as a real estate agent. Why in the world would they trust me to sell their home and or help them purchase a home? And so the one thing that I didn't do is I did not reach out to my sphere of influence in a way that provided value and service, even if I had never sold a house before. So then what did happen is as soon as I started selling houses, my sphere of influence started to ask questions. But if I would have put time, energy, and effort into my sphere of influence way before I even sold one house, I can only imagine the benefit of my business now and today. So that leads back to another reason why we don't do follow-up, because there's absolutely no instant gratification in follow-up. And unfortunately, we all live in a society, and I live in the same society that you all do, that it has to be, if it's not instantly gratified, if I don't see an instant progress, if I don't see an instant result, therefore it is not working, therefore it's dumb, and therefore I'm not doing it, right? Fair enough? And so the next mindset shift that I want you guys to think about is, what is your intention of doing the follow-up? Is it to eventually to get more business? Absolutely. right? This is, we all have bills to pay, we all want to be successful real agents, but when you're in the office, when you're at your house, when you're wherever you're doing it, the intention of doing your follow-up is to, and some people will disagree with this and don't like this buzzword, but I kind of do, is you are trying to get just a small part of the mind share of their day-to-day life. It's all we're trying to do. And we follow up, and if we don't get a response, we therefore think that it has not worked, right? So therefore, it is that, okay, I did this, I didn't get a response. So that means that all of our so I'm gonna get a little hokey, sorry, that's what I do. All of our self-worth and self-confidence is completely wrapped up into that one result of that one email, of that one text, and of that one phone call. So therefore, we have lost, I think, the intention of the why behind doing our follow-up. If our intention of our why of our follow-up is to build our database, to provide value, and to do for our business what we say we're going to do for our business on that day, we have won. And then if we consistently do it on a day-to-day basis, week after week, month after month, you too will have the stories that we've had here at Call Group, where a buyer came in at $400,000, our agent followed up with them for almost 2 years, and they ended up buying a $2 million property, okay? We will have an agent who had somebody that ghosted them, that absolutely said nothing to them for months and months and months and months, and she's like, oh, let's just see what happens, and all of a sudden said, hi, we're ready to purchase a home. Wow. So what I want you to do is to think about all the people in your database that were in your database from Q4 of last year, where your business is today, and we're not gonna look back in the past is the past, there's nothing we can do about it, but just imagine if you take that same database today, you consistently do something to create and find mind share for the people in your database, past client, sphere of influence, online lead, Facebook lead, social media, wherever your sources are coming from. And just imagine if today is May something, right? So June, July, August, just imagine what your August and your fall are gonna look like if you commit to yourself and if you continue with your follow-up, because that is where your fortune is. Questions? That's all I got for you.
What kind of questions do we have? Obviously, this is very familiar stuff because I don't know of many people that reach out to their SOI or not comfortable reaching out to their SOI. Ronnie, yes.
Well, I have a little motivation story of why to follow up. I was a typical guy, and this happened just 3 months ago. I have a lot of referral business, and I'm not a big gift giver, but I give money back in if it's home inspections or something like that. Well, a friend of mine who's a realtor called me and asked me a question, said, you don't follow up with your clients very well, do you? And I'm like, yeah, I've always had a trouble with that. Well, she she picked them up as a client. She did some advertising, and I pretty much lost about 15 grand. They sold one of their rentals, sold their home, and bought a new home. So I lost out on 3 transactions.
Oh.
If I would have followed up.
Well, the good news is hopefully you've learned from that, yes?
Yeah, that stings a little.
That does sting low. So that sounds like a past client action plan, right? That we need to institute in that. So I've got a great yearly past client plan that we can certainly do, and it's not as scary as it sounds. It's just 4 phone calls a year, but 12 emails a year, and 1 past client event. And so there's some great easy ways to do it if you stay consistent that we can share with you for sure.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool. Excellent. Who else?
If you guys, we can talk about actual action and plans, but they're out there. So, I just didn't feel like, that was something that, I wanted to use everyone's time wisely. So.
Yeah, KV Core actually has a bunch of really great automated action plans that are already built in. Campaigns is what they call them in there. And those have been tremendous for us as a team in the past and a way to keep up with our past clients. We also use a pond. If you're on a team, there might be a pond of past clients that are in there that may have been orphaned by someone that's left the team or left real estate. So we want to make sure we drip on those as well. So there are lots of ways to keep in touch without having to be uncomfortable and pick up the phone as well.
Yep, and A couple of resources, Keeping Current Matters. It is, I think as subscriptions go, it can be kind of expensive, but one of the most well worth it. And so Keeping Current Matters, that you can offer them national information. If you have local, if you're not in our local market, if you have some local data that you can find, most of us can find it on the MLS, the multiple listing service, wherever you are. If you are local here to the Raleigh area, I highly recommend to subscribe to the TAR report. I cannot stress enough how much information is there to be able to ask those questions to current and past clients of why they are not buying and or selling. Triangle Business Journal, Inman Magazine actually online has a ton of information. So if you can't subscribe to all of them, subscribe to one or two of them. And that literally gives you monthly, if not bi-weekly information to be sending to your clients. And remember, this is the other big thing about follow-up is, because you talk to any coach, any business person, everybody has a different opinion, but the opinion of having a call to action versus having not a call to action on emails, because sometimes I'm finding agents who have a call to action in their emails and or text and they get no action, then they're like, now what do I do? I asked them to do something, they didn't do it, so now what do I do with that, right? And so my intent when I was doing right or wrong, whether it worked or not, is that it was never asking anything of them. It was just giving them something and then coming from that place of service, which again sounds kind of cheesy, but it literally is that place of service that you come from, and knowing that you're not expecting anything in return. A lot of that we've been talking about here at Call Group lately with just trying to get people off the, off the fence. The market is crunched, the interest rates are high. Is, we can't make somebody do what they don't want to do until they're absolutely ready to do it. I can't make an agent follow up on our team, and we can't make somebody truly buy. We can educate them and we can give them all the information that we can, so therefore they feel more comfortable making that decision. And so it's this level of expectations. So thinking about the level of expectation you're putting on the consumer that you're reaching out to, whether they're a past client or they're a customer. So are you putting your expectation on somebody? Do you respond to every single text and or email that is given to you by other companies? I don't. Do I get an email and be like, oh my gosh, I got the 757th email from such and such person? Never do that. The only person I'm really annoyed with is who's getting the health insurance text. Do you need health insurance right now? I am getting bombarded with the health insurance text right now.
But at some point, you're gonna need health insurance.
At some point, I'm gonna need health insurance if I haven't blocked every single answer. So that's the point is you just move along the day and you look at it and you either respond or you don't respond. But I can't tell you how many times I've gotten emails from companies or texts from companies, and when I'm ready and then when I'm weak and it's late at night and I'm ready to respond, I'm going to respond. And that's how people, they're not doing anything to you. They are just not ready to respond with you. And so when they are ready, if you have not grabbed that mind share, if you have not shown an ounce of value, why in the world would you reach out to somebody who did not show any value to you in return? So just kind of going back, treat others literally as if you'd want to be treated. You're a human, the other person on the other line's a human. So how would you want to be spoken to as a human? And then kind of go from there. And then the last thing that I'll share is that even in the follow-up, you can't be attached to the outcome of whatever it is that you're doing. What can we control? We can control the consistent manner in which we follow up with people. I highly recommend you following up in the morning and in the afternoon. And this is going to go back to your schedule. So my schedule, long time ago, I have a different schedule now because I'm in a different area of real estate. But my schedule was, once I did my morning routine, I went through my entire CRM. I looked at anybody who responded to anything, if it was an email or a text from the night before. If anyone was looking at any kind of property, I did some sort of, I took 30 minutes before I even got dressed or did anything else in that day, and I went through my entire database. And then, no matter how tired I was from showing houses, from getting home at 9 or 10 o'clock at night, I did not allow myself to go to bed until I went back into my CRM and I saw if there was any activity that happened in my CRM that I must have missed when I was out showing homes or on listing appointments. Because please, 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 please do not put off today, right, to tomorrow, which you can do today, because that adds up as well. And then we get overwhelmed and we're just like, never mind. So if there's anything else that I can share with you for Fortune the follow-up is there's a lot of stuff that we can not do in this business, but don't not let yourself follow up first thing in the morning in your CRM and follow up before you go to bed at night, because that again is going to be the difference between 2 deals a month or 5 deals a month, because we don't know when they're going to be ready, but we will be ready when they are.
It's great.
That's all I got.
Getting some applause on the screen, so thank you so much. It's amazing.
No, I don't know.
No, that is fantastic.
That's all.
Thank you, Mackenzie.
You're welcome.
All right, Jessica, you're up next. We got your cool little bio right here. We got Jessica hailing from Wilmington, North Carolina. She and her trusty sidekick, Hank. Hank the dog.
Hank the
Sorry,
dog.
Hank the dog. Proudly now call Raleigh home. With a decade of sales and leadership experience, she's the ultimate cheerleader and champion of success. Jessica is thrilled to now support our call group agents, partnering with Mackenzie to push them beyond their wildest goals. Get ready. Oh, yeah. Armed with a go-getter spirit and problem-solving prowess, Jessica prioritizes both clients and her team. Jessica lives for outdoor escapades.
Yep.
Giving back to the community and baking up a storm for loved ones. Welcome, Jessica, to the Freedom Builders Mastermind.
Thanks. So I'm here today to talk about leveling up a buyer consult. I think that is, if you're working with buyers, I think it's one of the pivotal pieces that is going to set you up for either success or failure for everything else for you to do with that client. So I'd love to open it up for people in the room and then also people in Zoom world, whether it be chat or you just shout it out, like, what's the purpose of a buyer consult? What's the purpose?
To inform buyers, set the expectation.
Okay.
We have informed buyers, what'd you say? Set expectations.
Okay.
To establish a rapport.
Discover motivations.
Okay.
What was that, Alyssa?
Avoid wasting time on both sides.
Avoid wasting time on both sides.
Okay.
Here, sister.
It's good.
Yep.
So avoiding wasting time.
Good.
Yeah. Trust is huge.
Motivation.
Motivation's huge.
Pre-qualify.
Pre-qualify, okay. I'm really surprised that no one has said the thing that everyone always says, which is signed by our agency.
Oh,
'Cause it's,
the last yes.
so, yeah, so it's the last yes. And the reason why I say that is all of these are the intention behind it. The end result is the signing of the agency. If everything else is built and done well, that's the natural close. So it's setting expectations, winning with them, building rapport, and then also not only setting expectations for what they expect of you, but what you can expect of them. Because it has nothing to do with you as an agent. Like, I'm sorry, that's the piece that nobody likes to hear. It has nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with them. And the more you make it about them, the more you're gonna win with them as buyers. So I have the 5 biggest mistakes in my opinion, and then the 5 things that you must do in a buyer consult. And if at any point in time anyone has questions, please feel free to shout them out. So does anybody have any big mistakes or the hardest part of a buyer consult or going into it before I share like my 5 biggest mistakes?
Well, it would be asking for buyer agency.
So not closing it, okay.
Not closing it, I think, was what I would see on the agent side, the training side, yes.
All right, what are some other big mistakes or just hard parts of a buyer consult?
Talking too much.
Talking too much, yeah.
Not listening.
Not listening.
Not listening.
Yeah.
Making sure the decision maker is part of the meeting.
Yes.
Who
That-
will be on the contract, who will be on the loan.
Yep, exactly.
And my mistake that I used to make was thinking the decision maker who was a decision maker really isn't the decision maker too, right? Have you
Right.
guys ever done that too, right? You're just like, they act like the decision maker, but it's really this person, right? And so that's
yeah.
good to do.
Absolutely. So the 5 that I have is the first one is not controlling your environment for your consult. It's so easy for us to say and want to flex to say, okay, yeah, let's go grab coffee at a coffee shop, or let's grab lunch somewhere, or let's make it as convenient as possible, but you have no control over that environment. So when you're going to Starbucks, it's great that it's convenient, but you have no control over the noise level. If your client needs to go to the restroom, you have no control over if there's a line or not. If your client wants copies of things and you don't have them printed, Starbucks doesn't have a printer for you. So you have no control over the distractions, over the comfortability for you even. I mean, how much more confident are you in your office when you know the space. So then you can shine. So it's just putting yourself in the best position and your clients that you're focused. Because if you can't control your environment, that means that everything can happen around you and you have nothing to do for it. It also doesn't entirely come off professional. Like, I love going to grab coffee with somebody. I would grab a beer with a client when we've known each other for a long time. But there's a professionalism that's lost in, if you can't control the first meeting to be in your office and this is the expectation, this is what it looks like, this is what a professional meeting is, that sets the tone for everything else. And the biggest piece for me is always having the access to the resources. In my office, I know exactly where everything is. I'm super comfortable with it. I can grab whatever it is that I need. If you don't have an office yourself, create some sort of environment that you have control over that's really reasonable that you would invite clients into. Number 2 is not being confident or knowing your value. I think that's a huge mistake. And even as a brand new agent, you can be confident in knowing that you are going to do your absolute best. You're not going to have all the answers. No one has all the answers. But you can be confident in knowing that if somebody asks me something and I don't know, I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to find somebody who has the answer. And with that, knowing your value. So Mackenzie and I are both on call group. If Mackenzie and I are talking to the same buyer, I have to know my value, not call group's value, not EXP's value. Why am I the best person for it? So I think not knowing that and not being confident, it just sets you up to just not be good. And not being confident in the presentation. If you're not prepared, it shows. Number 3 for biggest mistakes is talking too much. This is big for me because I like to talk a lot. So not being able to read your audience or listen to things. We want to explain all the things and word vomit and here's all the reasons why. And if you're not reading the room and knowing whether or not that client is nodding in agreement or nodding off, that's an issue. You have to, if you have a different style, you have someone like me who's really talkative and someone else who's maybe a little bit more reserved and maybe they're not quite as expressive, I need to get uncomfortable and get into their zone. Because if you have 2 different communication styles and you're trying to get to an end result, someone's going to be uncomfortable. I would much rather it be me than a client. Number 4 is thinking about yourself as to why they should sign or hire you. Has nothing to do with me. Do not view people as a paycheck. Do not walk in when the commission question comes up of, hey, how much is 2.5% on a $500,000 house? You know what? I actually don't even know because that's not what I do. I'm not doing the math for you now because I'm focused on the end result of getting you a home. Don't view people as a number and don't think about yourself. If you're going in there with the mindset of, I need to sign an agency because it protects me, which means they're going to be loyal to me, which means they're not going to be going to new construction, you're thinking about you, you're coming from it from the wrong place. And then the 5th biggest mistake is asking if they're pre-approved or asking for buyer agency when you haven't earned the right to do so. So if you haven't built the rapport, don't ask for buyer agency. Don't ask to solidify something if you haven't earned the right or built the trust. It's like going on a first date and it's really bad and then you try and lean in for a kiss and like that just feels gross. Like if you haven't had good conversation, don't go for it. And the pre-approval piece is how you ask for it is huge. You ask somebody, are you pre-approved? That can sound really abrasive. So I have on the 5 ways to win the opposite of these so far. Any questions or anything about the big mistakes so far?
You got Tiffany that has her hand raised on that?
Yeah, Tiffany, what's up? We can't hear you.
I'm sorry, I had to unmute. Okay, how can we show our value without making it about us? At what point do we do that?
So I think, so you're not doing a 45-minute presentation about why Jessica is the greatest one in the room. For me, it's in 60 seconds. What is it that I do for that other person that's going to mean why they want me on their team?
Like a quick elevator pitch.
Yep, exactly.
And then if you're, do you mind if I pop in?
No,
Okay.
absolutely.
Because this is something we talked about today with our onboardees this morning was, so our 5-part bio presentation that we do the same thing. And part 3 is about the market, what's the market update. And I think a mistake that most agents make is just literally verbal vomit, this is about the market, before doing what?
Asking what they know about the
Asking
market.
what they know.
Market. So
Yeah.
you going, okay, so the market is this and this, and I know this and I know this, and the market's this, and blah 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 blah, right? So the way that you, Tiffany, show your value without making it about yourself is saying, before we get started, please tell me what is it that you know about the market. So that way, if they bought a house before in North Carolina, you're not talking to them like a first-time home buyer. If
Right.
they're watching national news, and they're seeing that the sky is falling and the world's ending and all that kind of stuff, then you say, okay, yes, nationally it seems scary, but may I share with you what our local market is telling us? So now, because I know they don't know the local, they've given me permission to tell them about the local market. Then I'm going to flex the information that I know about our local market so that they're going to be making an educated decision. Now I become advisor. I do not become real estate agent who opens up doors.
Exactly. And with the must
Thank you. That's perfect.
Okay.
Good. And I have some little key examples too. And to Mackenzie's point is your value depends on who your client is in front of you. And I'll talk about that in just a second with the why you, because it does make a big difference. You can say the same line to one person and that's the hook, line, and sinker. You can say the same line to somebody else and it'll make them run away. It depends on who you're talking to.
Very true.
So the 5 must-dos are setting the stage before the appointment. So when you're on the phone with them, letting them know, hey, here's what we're going to talk about. When you're setting up for the buyer consult, it's letting them know kind of what to expect and then reiterating that right at the very beginning. Hey, here's what we're going to be discussing today. Here are my expectations of what you should get out of this. I'd love to know from you, what are your expectations of today? Asking them what they would like to know. Is there anything specific today that you think would be really valuable for you moving forward? I want to make sure that I touch on that while we're together. The other piece is asking them how they communicate. Before you start, one of the easiest things you can say, and always put yourself as the example, like always own any negativity yourself and say, my default is, hey, I talk a lot and I get really excited about things. And I want to make sure that when we're communicating, I'm in your style. Do you like bullet points? Do you want me to go in depth? Are you really expressive? Or are you going to tell me exactly how you're feeling? I want to make sure that we're on the same page and I'm not thinking anything that's not accurate. So asking them how they communicate. Are you going to go with your gut when we find the right house, or do we need to analyze some stuff? Do you need some time to think about it?
No time. Just
Yeah.
kidding.
I need no time. I know exactly, like, I'm buying the house. But somebody else may need a little bit more time to think about it. I think the biggest thing is, what are your expectations from today's meeting? And one of the pieces with that is going to go into point number 3 in just a minute, which is, what do they expect of you? So number 2, and Tiffany, this is kind of what you were speaking about, is why you? Explain who you are, high level overview, how you operate so they know what to expect from you. Are they going to be looking at homes from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. every single Saturday and Sunday and not write offers? If not, then maybe clarify of how things work with you, with your clients. And then what sets you apart from every other agent? This is where it is unique to you and to the person sitting in front of you. If I have someone who I haven't asked what their expectations are of an agent, and I go in guns a-blazing and I say, hey, I've got 60 agents on my team, I've got transaction coordinators, we've got all these people, and that's my value add, that's my generic canned message, here you go. And what's important to them is to feel like they're the only one in the room, to feel like they're your only client, that they are loved on, they're not just a number. I've shot myself in the foot. So asking kind of what it is that they're looking for will determine what your value add is. Now, who you are as a person doesn't change, but how you express that is different. So taking that same person and saying, hey, So not only do you get me, but I have a whole group of agents that if I happen to go on vacation, they're gonna step in so you always feel like you're number one. I have a transaction team who's always gonna be there from the moment we go under contract to make sure nothing gets missed. I want you to know that you have me as your point person, and then there's so many other people that are in our corner if we ever need it. And it's the same message, it's just delivered completely differently depending on what's important to them. To Mackenzie's point too, be the expert in the area. Do not make it up. There are certain personalities that if you say something, and I'm looking at a couple in this room, if you say something and it's not 100% accurate and you get caught with that, you will never get them back. And most people are like that. But be the expert on your area. Know what you can afford at different price points in different generalized locations. You don't have to know every single neighborhood. You just need to know in our area, hey, what you can get for 400 in Cary is very different from what you can get for 400 in Wake Forest.
You can get something for 400 in Cary?
Well, you can't, surprise. That's the option, there are none.
Okay.
So be the expert on that. Also your presentation. I'm a big fan of if you can't read a buyer, if you don't know what the buyer agency says and you don't have it internalized and you can't read it upside down because you know it in and out, backwards and forwards, everything, practice. My dog Hank has heard the buyer agency so many times. But that's the piece that's the professional. Any professional is not going to sit there and read it and say, this is what this says and this is what this says. It removes your credit the moment you start reading something that should be an everyday thing for you. So don't fake it and explain why you are. And then number 3 is ask questions. The way that I like to think of it is who, what, when, where, how, why. All of those things I need to know. One, when we talked about decision makers is, yes, it's the people it's the person on the loan, but it's also who do you call when you have a big decision to make? Who's gonna be the other voice that's in your ear? If it's a first-time home buyer, is it their parent? Is it someone who just purchased a home? What information have they heard so far and who are they gonna call? Because I wanna make sure that whoever that person is knows that I have their best intentions in mind. And if they need to be brought in on a group text, great, we're gonna do that. If I have a mom and dad who are gonna be telling my first-time home buyer, no, that's not right, no, that's not right, well then mom and dad and I are getting on a conference call and we're gonna say, hey, what's your biggest concern and how can I alleviate that? Do you wanna come with us to look at homes? What's your biggest concern? Because as a parent, I wanna make sure that you know that your kid is taken care of 110%.
That's such a huge point, and I think that something just to piggyback off of, we all, I shouldn't say all, but I will include myself, most of us have had that parent, brother, best friend who's an inspector, or whatever the case may be, who is that other voice, and it's our ego that does not allow us to bring them into the conversation, and it's our ego that says, but I know better than they do, right? So we need to embrace it. We have an agent here who just walked in a little bit who had a story with the mom and being very much part of the conversation, and the light bulb went off, and she embraced, the mom wasn't going anywhere, right? And so she's shaking her head, right? They never do. And as a mom, I can totally see that. I would be, I don't know, anyway, but don't let your ego get in the way of the sale of the home that's right for this person. If that's who they need to be, embrace them, let them be part of the conversation. And just do what we have to do, because we're making it, going back to Jessica's point, we're making it about us. If we're frustrated, we can be frustrated, right? And be frustrated, and that's fine. But don't let it get in the way of what's right for the client or what the client thinks that they need to have as the support. So anyway, that was just, sorry.
No, I love it. But that's the big piece that I think it's like throwing them in a group text too. Like if it's parents, first-time home buyers, and like, I'll use my mom as an example. When I bought my house, there wasn't a single thing that was going to happen that woman didn't know everything about. When it came to negotiations, she was a part of it. Looking back now, I feel so sorry for the person who helped me buy my first home. But I wouldn't have felt like I could make those decisions without her blessing. And knowing that I was having those conversations anyways, if I would have just brought it in, it would have been so much better than playing telephone. So now I welcome it and I'm like, hey, who are we going to call to have decisions and talk about this with? asking them, what do you know about the current market in your immediate area? Hey, who have you talked to about the market recently? Oh, you talked to a friend who just bought? Great. When did they buy? Oh, they bought a year ago? Let me tell you that things are a little bit different from when they bought to now. So I want to make sure that you're getting the right narrative for what's pertinent to you right now, because it's different than it was a year ago. I also like to ask, what do you want your life to look like and feel like when you move? I'm not asking how many bedrooms. I'm not getting to that stuff yet. I want the feels. I want the emotion part of it. What are your expectations of me and my team? And how can we be the best team together? When's the best time for you to tour properties, to move? Are you flexible? I want to get all of these who, what, when, where, how, why things out of the way first. To Mackenzie's point earlier, we're not here to manufacture motivation. And I think as real estate agents, it's so hard because we work on commission, we work when they close. So we need to close. Sometimes there have been days where like the mortgage is due and like we don't have a commission check coming in. So what are we gonna do? But our job is not to manufacture the motivation for them. It's not my job to push you. It's to figure out your motivation and meet you there. So
that means follow up with your database.
Exactly.
So that you're not so tight on this one lead closing, because it doesn't matter, because you have created an entire database of follow-up. So if they're not motivated now, it's okay. I've got 10 other people motivated in my follow-up. Sorry, that just blended very well.
Our topics kind of like blend together a little bit. It's wonderful. But speaking to the motivation piece, one question that I asked a lot when I was working with buyers, and I still think that it was one of the most effective questions that I could ask, is I would say to them at some point during this process, you're not going to want to get out of bed. You're going to be frustrated. You're going to feel overwhelmed. And I could potentially have the perfect house. And I need to ask you right now, on that day when it's cold and it's rainy and you're in bed and you don't want to leave, what is the reason that you're going to give me permission to remind you of as to why we're doing all of this? I need to know the biggest piece for you. Is it because you're tired of paying rent because you've thrown away $30,000 over the course of the last 10 years? Is it because your mom is sick and you need to move and be closer to her? Is it that you haven't seen your grandkids and now you want to be able to go to those school plays? What's the reason that I get to remind you of? And do you give me permission to remind you of that? Because when you dig deep down, and it's not just, oh, I want to buy a house because of yard space. Okay, tell me a little bit more about that. When you get down to it, I use this, and this is when it kind of was a light bulb moment for me that this made the biggest difference, is I had a client who he wanted to buy his first home. It was really important for he and his wife and their kids just to have a first home. They would have been the first ones in their family to purchase. And I thought that's what the motivation was. And then I couldn't get to it. He wouldn't pull the trigger. We were looking at homes, nothing clicked. And finally one day I was like, what's going on? Like, why are we doing all of this? And it came from a place of frustration, but I was like, I found you your perfect home. I don't understand. Tell me, why are we doing all this? And he said, to be honest with you, the whole reason why we're doing everything, and the first thing I look at, is safety for my family. Because right now I go to work, it gets me choked up every time. Right now he was going to work and he didn't know what it was going to be like for his wife and his kids. And I said, okay, so safety's number one. So do you give me permission to remind you of that when the perfect home comes up, that the whole reason we're doing this is so that you can go to work and know that your family is completely safe at home and you don't have to stress about that while you're also providing for them. And 2 weeks later, the perfect home came up in a great neighborhood with people that were exactly like him. He knew he could leave his family at home and they were totally fine. And I said, Mukhtar, this is the home. Your family is safe here. You can go to work. And we wrote an offer that, yeah. And we wrote an offer that was so uncomfortable and so far outside of anything that he had felt comfortable with before, because the motivation was not to be the first person in his family to buy a house. It was to be able to leave his family at home and feel safe. And that was the piece that I was like, okay, that motivation is the piece that I need to know so that I can be the matchmaker for the home and the person. Because there's always so much more than just, I want to buy a house. And using the rainy day scenario has usually worked, that people kind of get it. They're like, oh yeah, there is a bigger reason for all of this. So that's asking the big why there. And then, now that we're on a lighter topic, and then rather than asking somebody, are you pre-approved? It's asking, how do you intend to purchase your home? Are you planning to do all cash? Or are you planning to take great advantage of the interest rates that we have seen at an all-time low for the last 2 months? Adjust that line as necessary.
Like, how are you ending this?
So it depends on what's going on. I mean, right now everybody's like, oh my God, it's 6.5%, it's 7%. Okay, great. They're at an all-time low for the last 2 months. For 2 months, we've seen the lowest interest rates.
Awesome.
Great, let's take advantage of it before it goes up. So asking somebody how they intend to do it versus are you is a lot less abrasive. It comes off of like, oh, you think I could buy this home in cash? Wow, I'm flattered. Versus, are you even able to buy? Number 4, we've kind of talked about it, is the what's in it for them, making sure that you go over the process. So something that we have at Call Group, and yours is going to look different depending on what your consult is, but in Zoom world, I don't know if you can see this, it is a game board and it walks them through the entire process. So this is what to expect now, this is what to expect down the road, all of that. There's a nice folder that we have here that we put everything together. And what's in it for them with agency. This is where it's not about you, this is where it's about them. My favorite thing I love to say, in North Carolina, I work for the seller. Unless you sign this piece of paper saying that we're working together, my loyalty is to the seller. So that means that even if you love a home, anything that you tell me, if I get a phone call from a listing agent, my loyalty is to that listing agent and that seller. I'm a seller sub-agent. Please don't put me in a position where I have to spill everything that you feel like is all of your personal, private, confidential information because we didn't sign a piece of paper saying that I could protect you and that I was gonna work with you exclusively and that you chose me to be on the team. That's what's in it for them with the agency, is that they have somebody who is gonna negotiate for them, but above all else, be completely confidential with their information. We share way too much as a society. And then reframe everything as what's in it for them. It has, we're gonna look at the top 3 properties that you wanna look at because they match your search criteria, because we wanna make sure that we're saying yes to the properties that we're willing to write an offer on versus saying no to another great property because we decided to look at 5 houses that were a maybe versus 3 that were a yes. Now what I'm really doing is protecting my time, but I'm framing it as we want to say yes to the things that are really important. So making sure that whatever you're saying, you're always framing it for the person who's receiving it. And then number 5 is close when it makes sense and it's seamless into the next steps. If you've done all of your presentation up front, you've listened to them, you've built the rapport, you've asked them, it's been a conversation, then the close is, hey, the next steps for us is we're gonna sign this saying that we're a team, we're working together. We're gonna go ahead and build your search right now, and I actually already have 1 home for us to go take a look at today. Because I think it'd be fun to go ahead and put foot in a house, put feet in a house, foots in a house. If you don't present well, you may get an objection. You may get an objection even if you present great. But all of your presentation, that's the next step, that's the seamless part to it. If you say the next step is to sign this and they say no, okay, it appears that there's a question I didn't answer as to why we wouldn't move forward, or we're not a match. I'd love for us to go ahead and figure that out now, because I find that usually if we just have a conversation, we figure it out and we can move forward. I don't want there to be anything unanswered. So what is stopping you from moving forward today together? It's a little bit of pressure, but it also gives them an easy out too. And then always set the next appointment. Even if we're just looking and building a search, it is, okay, the next appointment is for me to connect you with a lender, for us to see what your purchase power is so we can build this search robustly. The next step is for us to go look at this house. The next step is for us to jump on a phone call 2 days from now to figure out what we want to see this weekend. Don't ever leave without setting some sort of appointment. It also sets the expectations so they know when to hear from you. So that's the 5 things to not do and the 5 things to do according to Jessica for your buyer consultation.
It's very good.
Any questions?
Very good.
Which one of those have you struggled the most with, and how did you overcome that struggle in those?
Great question.
I think for me, it was the unique value proposition. It was what was unique for me. Because when I was a new agent, like, why would you choose me? Like, I didn't know. And then that's when I had the really honest conversation with myself of, I know I'm gonna do my absolute best. That's all I can do. So whether I'm experienced or I'm a new person, I'm gonna do my best. I'm gonna give it my 100%. And I'm gonna treat every single person as if they were a family member or friend of mine. And I don't care if I've met you for 2 seconds and you have no interest in being me, I'm gonna become your best friend. And I tell them that usually. I'm gonna become your best friend by the end of it, or you're never gonna wanna talk to me again. But 99% of my people think that I'm their best friend, so I hope you're on that side. And I use humor to deflect everything and to de-escalate in a consult or any time with a client. It just gives somebody the, you can breathe.
Mhm.
So yeah.
Awesome. Great story about the showing that client what his real why was also. But just for everyone here, she did not steer or give them crime statistics or anything.
No.
She was above board and
Yes.
just happened to find the right house in the right neighborhood that happened to be safe
Yes.
for them.
It really was. We pulled into the neighborhood and they just saw families running and kids in the yard and they were just like, this is it. And it, like, I could see it on their faces and I was like, this is it. This means right now we're gonna pull out every single stop we have. I need to see the bank statements. What are we throwing into due diligence? What are we waiving? We're bulletproofing your entire offer and running with it.
Nice. Mackenzie, how did you overcome, I don't want to tell people that I sell homes to your SOI?
The honest answer?
Yeah.
Well, I did never really get over it. I just started selling homes and then my SOI started reaching out to me, which is the true answer.
Yeah.
And I don't want to say anything other than that. But now that I see, so what I learned is working with my sphere for the most part, except for my parents, because my dad was, when I moved him here, is a heck of a lot easier than working with an online stranger, right? An online lead. And so if I would have just bit the bullet, but in other ways for the follow-up, because the beginning of the follow-up was so hard for me because I am very much like, I'm a very high I and I want everyone to like me and I am just happy and I want everyone to be my friend and I don't want to bother them and all of that, right? So for me, it was my mindset. 95% of my business success has all been about my mindset that I continue to work on every single day. And so that's the big thing. And so for somebody like me who was not, so if you're somebody like me who is afraid to reach out to their sphere, has not done a very good job, what I did do an incredibly good job with is my past client follow-up. So my Zillow, right? So you love or hate Zillow, that's a whole other discussion, but Zillow was beautiful for my career because if I wasn't reaching out to my sphere, I was working like a dog for my online lead, but then they got that service that Jessica was talking about during the buyer consultation, and then I was getting referrals. So from my follow-up was the second, third, and fourth year of my business was past client referral business, and then in conjunction with the sphere and that sort of thing. So honestly, it just
Still working on it.
I'm still working on it, and so for me it is, don't do what I did. What does it say? Do what I do, do what I say, not what I do, what I do, and
Learn from my mistakes.
learn from my mistakes, that sort of thing. So it would have been pretty cool to see what that trajectory would have looked like had I put that into my business as well,
Very cool.
that first couple of years.
Can I just share why I called everybody in my sphere?
Yeah, so what I was getting ready to say is my non-superpower was her sphere was her superpower. So thank you, please.
Yeah. So the way that I took it is I didn't ask them for anything. I just called and said, hey, I just want to tell you that I'm in real estate and I am so freaking excited right now. And I just want you to know that if you ever have anything that you need, please call me. I'm going to add you to my business page. And I would love for you just to, interact with me. I'm going to post some really pretty homes. I'm going to see some different things, but I just want you to know I'm in real estate. Like, this is just an update to my life. What's going on in your world? It was the Ford method before I knew what the Ford method was.
That's ninja selling if you don't know the right book.
but yeah, I was like, just gonna call everybody. My life was changing. You were gonna see it either way. So why not me tell the story?
Fair enough. Yeah, see, I needed that mindset.
So, like,
that's what I needed.
It's like,
You're
you're
gonna know.
Yeah. I also came from a cosmetics background at one point. It's like, I didn't care. Like, I was like, no is not no. No is not right now. Okay, great. I'll see you next time. But me, I just wanted to tell everybody my story. I was so excited to start this new chapter. And I was like, I'm just so excited and I wanted to tell you.
Yeah. I was in my head too much at the beginning, for sure.
But I think because I didn't ask them for anything, I didn't allow myself to get, I was just, hey, this is what's going on in my world.
For sure.
I was also,
Do what you did, not what I did.
no, I will say I did that after I had my license. But I only told 2 people that I was actually even trying to get my license because I was terrified that I was gonna fall on my face and I didn't want anybody to know. So I was like a secret taking of the class until I passed the exam. And then I was like, I passed, tell everybody.
Mayor of Crazy Town.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
How many did you sell, if you were willing to share, in your first full year of real estate?
So my first full year, I was on a very small team and I think I closed 18 or 19 my first year as an agent.
So the reason I ask is Mackenzie, without telling everyone, she sold 50. So imagine if you would put those 2 superpowers together.
That's what I'm
know,
saying.
yeah.
75, 80 homes. I know.
Yep. Yep.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
And my sphere doesn't live here either. So like I called my sphere and they lived all over the globe and I had moved to Raleigh a year before. So.
Yep, perfect. Thank you, ladies, very much. We were butting up against the hour, so thank you for presenting today. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. If you joined us based on an invitation from someone that's a Freedom Builder and you're not currently a Freedom Builder, or they sent you this recording, please reach back out to them and ask them how to get more of this, because we do this every single week, and we have a couple of other masterminds that are out there for you to use as resources, as well as all of the amazing things in our Facebook page and the overall community. And we're a super strong community of almost 1,200 agents now. So looking forward to seeing you guys again next week and getting back into Tina leading masterminds. And we've got a couple of really cool things coming up. We've got another Evolve event coming up in September. We've already put that on the books, and we're looking to do some really cool things for our June mastermind. So definitely stay tuned for that coming up. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it. Thanks for everyone here joining us too, and enjoy the rest of your day, everyone.
Thanks.
Bye. Thanks, ladies. Y'all did great.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.